Welcome everybody to another episode of Underdog Podcast. My name is Patrick. I'm here with James.
What's up?
And Gerald.
Hello, hello.
And on tap for today's show, we've got another week in the NFL, which means another week of injuries. So we'll update everyone on the impacts on teams, as well as we got our NFL and NBA featured games of the week. And we'll finish up with our undisputed top 10 as usual. So without further ado, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Design Mentality, and let's get on with the show. All right. So first on the bat, there's been a rash of injuries gone recently that have hit the NFL, big name players that have significant impacts on their teams. So we had 4 that we highlighted that happened fairly recently, and we would discuss which injury has the biggest impact to the team's playoff hopes. So we got Deshaun Watson on Houston. We have Richard Sherman on Seattle. Ezekiel Elliott, even though he's not injured, he has that suspension. So he's on the Cowboys, and Aaron Rodgers, who went down a few weeks ago. I guess starting off with, probably the most tragic is Deshaun Watson, because he was having such an incredible year, and to go down with such a non-impact severe injury like that, it's tough to hear about, and you know, that there was an overwhelming support on social media for him. So many guys, even LeBron shouted out to him. Like, it showed how much of an impact his game was having on everyone.
Yeah, no doubt. For me, the Deshaun Watson injury is probably the worst injury, just for the fact that team now is probably not even going to make playoffs. Like, they had a chance to not win a Super Bowl, but they had a chance to make playoffs, maybe make some noise. They had a good defense. Now he's gone. Tom Savage? No.
You don't think the defense can carry them at least into the playoffs?
Their offense is horrible, man. You have Will Fuller in fantasy. Like, you tell me what you think, man. Like,
I was hoping you wouldn't have to bring up fantasy,
the production so from that offense has just, like, these guys were scoring 35 points, like 40 points in a game with this guy. So, I don't think they're going to be able to survive. Not to mention J.J. Watt's also injured on the defense. He's gone for the year. So that team, due to that injury, I think they're just completely out of the hunt. As for the Packers, Aaron Rodgers they basically said that he can come back, or at least start throwing in, I think, mid-December, which that would make, if like, the quarterback, Brett Hundley, can kind of hold things together for right now, that one might be able to work in their favor. Maybe they can get him back just before playoffs if they can just stay maybe in a wild card. Cause I don't think they're going to win the division. I think Minnesota's probably going to win that division. So that one I would say is probably the best one out of them all.
But it's hard to gauge, because Aaron Rodgers did say that he's not coming back unless he's fully healthy. So I guess we won't probably know till it gets closer on, because he could target December, but if he's not feeling well.
But then again, for me, like, for the Packers, like, if you don't have Aaron Rodgers, like, you don't have a good enough team around him to really do anything. Whereas for the Texans, at least they did have a good defense, where the defense might be able to do something to help them out with an injury of your quarterback going down. But when you look at Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, like, their team is Aaron Rodgers. They don't have anybody else. Their receivers are okay, but they're not superstars, so they're not really going to help out the backup quarterback. Their defense is horrible, has been horrible for the last, like, 3 or 4 years. So they don't deserve to make playoffs.
But honestly, I think with having Jordy Nelson and Devontae Adams, any mediocre quarterback can come in and, win some decent games. But those guys
are not as great as, like, Aaron Rodgers makes them be.
Oh, no, definitely not, but it will alleviate that pressure.
Yeah, I just don't think those guys are good enough to elevate a quarterback. That's my point. Like, those wide receivers, they're not Odell Beckhams. They're not Antonio Brown. They're not DeAndre Hopkins. No, but those guys, you put them with any quarterback, they'll have production.
But they're going to take the pressure off Aaron Rodgers being rushed maybe a couple weeks early and then re-injuring that clavicle, because from what I know, he's had some screws put. I don't know if it's a standard procedure.
I'm confused though. Why would he have more time because of them?
Well, because if they're winning and they're at least a few games, you don't have to rush them to come back to push to playoffs, because
I see your point. But because
right now I feel they're saying December without really knowing the situation, cause they basically
won last week by default. because the team they were playing basically folded like a cheap tent. But other than that, they've lost every game without Aaron Rodgers. And I really don't see them winning any games going forward without him. So it's going to be touch and go for them. But like I said, for them, they deserve everything they're getting now that Aaron Rodgers is out, because it was your fault. You chose not to put a defense on your team. You chose not to get wide receivers. You chose to just have a quarterback, and that's all you worried about. Now he's down. That's your fault. Whereas Houston, they've been building a team for a long time. I feel bad for the people of Houston. Things were finally looking up for them, and boom, you get hit with that injury.
Okay, so the last real injury that we're going to talk about that happened this past week is the Richard Sherman, which is kind of tough to watch because he did have the post press conference, and he just shows what a stand-up guy he is, and pretty much gave the team everything he could, and even when he wasn't physically able, and he he ruptured his Achilles. Yeah. So it was really sad to see a captain on the defense for them. So that Legion of Boom, is that still gonna be there?
Well, we won't know that answer because they haven't even played yet without him. So we're gonna have to see him for a week before we can judge to see if their defense is gonna be able to hold up without him. But yeah, it was sad to definitely see just how, him basically saying that, yeah, I knew it was gonna go. But,
yeah, he knew apparently he knew he was out as soon as he hit the ground.
He's like, that's what you do. As a teammate.
He knew weeks ago or something.
Yeah, he knew
he was
weeks
playing
ago.
With it.
Yeah, because it was injured. He knew eventually if I continue to push it, it's gonna pop. So it was weird to see him kind of just I guess he maybe had already accepted the injury. Yeah. Which is kind of really weird. Normally when guys get injured, they're very emotional in that time, but he had kind of accepted it. Yeah, I did everything I could. I literally ran until it popped. And I feel bad for him in that sense, but we'll have to see how good this defense will be without him. Because the one thing is, last year when they lost Earl Thomas with the broken leg, the defense kind of fell apart in the secondary. And now you're taking away Sherman, where the problems you're going to have now is he locks off one side of the field. So one side of the field, quarterbacks just don't throw there. And if they do, chances of them completing it are extremely low.
They did sign Byron Maxwell. I'm not saying that's a replacement in any way, but a guy who's comfortable in their system.
Yeah, but he's not going to be able to replace Sherman. Quarterbacks are not going to be afraid of him. They're going at a guy like that. So,
and they did bring up an interesting conversation though with the scheduling of Seattle, because they did play on Monday night and then they were asked to play on Thursday. So 4-day rest is not, or it was Sunday that they played, and then they were followed on by a Thursday night game. And some of the players were vocal in saying they should get rid of them altogether. Do you see that was an impact of having guys play a lot, 2 games so close to each other? Because you look at a sport like hockey, they routinely have 3 games in 4 nights. And it's just, I would say, as grueling as football, because guys are hitting each other at high speeds consistently. Do you see an argument there that could have
I think your comparison to hockey is a bad comparison, just in the sense where you do have big hits in hockey, but it's more like in a game you may have 3 or 4 or maybe 5 guys getting completely drilled. You're bumping guys as you go down the ice, kind of making slight contact with them on the boards. In football, it's a car crash. These guys are literally going full speed. They run incredible speeds. They're so fast. Linebackers and wide receivers coming across the middle. And even when you get down into the big guys, the defensive ends and offensive linemen, they're running into guys every play. That's contact all the time. So I think football is a little different in that sense, where it's a little bit, takes a little bit more of a toll on your body, because you're literally banging into someone every play. You're making contact.
Well, I'm trying to compare it to the next sport that's similar, because it doesn't have the significant impact.
Fighting is a better one to compare it to.
But they fight once every 3-4 months.
Yeah, that's why it's hard to. Honestly, there is no sport really like football. These guys are out there. It's so crazy that they're out there in pads just full contact.
Like, so you just think because it's just football and the way the sport has been traditionally played that you can't get away from injuries? Like, there's no real way to avoid them?
No, in any sport, you're not going to eliminate injuries. You're always going to have injuries.
What I should say is, do you see the NFL looking into taking away Thursday night football?
No,
no?
They make money. They make money on Thursday night football. Why would they get rid of it? And like the one thing for the players for me about Thursday night, I'm not saying that it's right because to be honest with you, I've never had to play a game on Sunday and then get up and play a game on Thursday. So for me, I wouldn't know what that physically feels like to put your body through that. But at the end of the day, every team has it. Every team plays a Thursday nighter in the schedule, and you normally play on the Sunday before the Thursday nighter. So every team has that disadvantage. It kind of is what it is. They want to make money. This is the schedule you're being dealt. The NFL could definitely do things to make it better with the scheduling. Maybe have 2 bye weeks for every team, and now you automatically have a bye if you're the Thursday night game coming up, so then at least you have more time. But, I mean, other than little things like that, I don't know what much more they can do. But
it's strange that they have Thursday night football. All games are on Sunday besides Monday, and then you have Thursday that has one game.
Well, yeah, because they added, same as Monday, where you have one game. Like, Monday night football's been around for a really long time.
That's what I can understand that, but Thursday's only been
Thursday has been new. So they basically, Monday night football worked, where they put football on a night in the week, and oh wow, everybody watched it. So they're like, hey, how can we make more money? Okay, let's make Thursday night football. They're talking about Friday night maybe one day.
I would stay away from Saturday.
Yeah, so I think it's inevitable that because leagues want to dominate days, and that's like why football has been so famous for the longest time in America, is because Sunday in America is known for football. Like churches will redo their schedule around when football games are played in their area. Like if you're in the East Coast, like your church will make sure they have their ceremony early in the morning so you can be home by 1. Like this is the kind of stuff that happens in America based around football. So they're just trying to expand that by owning more days. So now they already own Sunday, Monday nights, and Thursday nights. It wouldn't surprise me if they push for more.
Okay, so now last guy is Ezekiel Elliott, who is going to be suspended now. Finally, it looks like it's going to withstand, and it's going to be 6 games. So he is going to come back last few games of the season. But does that pretty much end their playoff hopes now that they don't have that dynamic running game to complement Dak Prescott? Because he has surprised me this year with how, like, maybe not he hasn't taken as many risks down the field, but he's still shown that he can control the game, and he can make those short pot shots just to keep the defense honest.
Yeah, for me, just for the Zeke Elliott thing, so basically he's missing 4 games right now.
Yeah.
Because his injunction was denied, but he still has a court date, I think December 1st. So December 1st, he goes back to court to fight the remaining 2 games, because obviously you've already served the 4 games. So he can still get off and come back for, only have 4 games suspension. But these 4 games upcoming, he's basically suspended for those because the court denied his injunction, his stay of the suspension until that court hearing. So now he just has to wait for that court hearing, and you got to serve your time until then. So that's basically why he's going to miss the next 4 games. As for the impact for the Dallas Cowboys, I think they're really going to miss him a lot. But I do also think that they have serviceable guys that are going to be able to kind of hold up, maybe not give you exactly what Zeke gave you, but hold up a little bit. But it's not going to be where the problem is going to arise is Dak has had the luxury right now of when he's throwing the football, the box is normally stacked because nobody wants to let Zeke run. So everyone is keying in on Zeke. Makes you stack the box, 7, 8 guys in the box all the time. That's giving Dak more one-on-one options outside and down the middle of the field. So when you're a team and you're playing defense against the Cowboys, when Zeke's in the game, you're going to stack the box. So you're going to be playing normally single coverage on the outside. Gives the quarterback now a better chance of completing it. If a guy gets beat off the line, okay, boom, go to him. You got a completion, right? Whereas if you play now, when you have Alfred Morris in the backfield or I can't remember the name. McFadden is another backup, running back there, and Rod Smith is also the third running back there. When you have those guys in the backfield, now you don't have to put 8-7 guys in the box. Cause, alright, let's go with, rush 4, maybe 5.
But you also got to be careful too, because they do have a good O-line, so these guys can still run. It's not.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. The holes will still be there, but your second line of defense, your linebackers should be able to take care of a running back on their own. When you have Zeke Elliott, Zeke will take down a linebacker one-on-one. So you need to make sure you have gang tackles for when you get him. So when you do make contact, you have 3 or 4 guys that make contact on him, so take him down so he doesn't bounce off a linebacker and go for 60 yards. Where chances of Alfred Morris and McFadden bouncing off a linebacker and going for 60 yards are slim to none. So it just changes the defensive philosophy. So now Dak is now seeing more guys in the backfield or more guys on his receivers, maybe double coverage here, got zone on this side. So things will be a lot different for Dak. The looks that he'll be getting from the pocket will not be what he's accustomed to. So we'll kind of find out here what Dak's made of. Like, is this guy actually a nasty franchise quarterback that can play with a running game or without a running game? Or was he kind of a product of the running game where that really helped him out? We'll find out.
The
first game wasn't a great test for him, but he was also missing his left tackle. So I think for that game, you kind of got to throw away the tape and kind of give him another shot, because he got sacked 6 times by one player. So when that's happening, you're not going to complete many passes.
Okay. Now on to our feature game of the week in the NFL. So it's decided that it's Cowboys versus the Eagles. Speaking of the Cowboys, now we get to talk a little bit the Eagles and the amazing year that they're having so far. Best record in the NFL. Carson Wentz is playing like an MVP. I know Gerald's happy about this. They just got Jay Ajayi. So that's an added weapon to an already potent offense. So, what we do for a feature game of the week is we always get to choose, who we think is going to win, and we tally up all the records, and then I think at the end of it we'll decide something, I guess. So we're still in development.
We have so many challenges going right now.
Yeah,
it's hard to,
man's got to do some challenges. Hopefully I don't have to do any.
But right now, as it stands, I'm 3-1, Gerald's 2-2, and James needs to step up and be 1-3. And
long season.
I'm enjoying calling you out because it's the only time I can, because you're undefeated in fantasy.
Very true.
So got to get it in when I can. So, what do you guys think? I'll start off with James now. So, you have Cowboys or do you have the Eagles?
Well, Eagles 100%. Eagles they should win this game. They're the way better team. They have injuries as well to their team, but not as many as Dallas. So the Cowboys played the Falcons last week. So based on what we saw in that game, without Sean Lee, the numbers were pretty staggering. They were averaging, I think, Atlanta was averaging 3 or 4 more yards per play when Sean Lee was out of the game. So I think that's going to be a huge miss for them. The left tackle, Tyron Smith, I don't know if he's going to be back. So they might have Chaz Green in there again, which if they do, Fletcher Cox is probably going to end this guy. So that's not going to bode well for the Cowboys. So I think everything leans towards an Eagles win. I'm going to take the Eagles, and I'll be confident to say I'm going to take the Eagles big. I think it's going to be big.
Yeah, well, it's no surprise here. I'm going to pick the Eagles. I've been an Eagles fan since I've been watching football, so fly, Eagles, fly.
That's it.
James, you made a perfect argument for why you think they're going to dominate the Cowboys. Gerald, are you on the Philly bandwagon?
I mean, 7 wins in a row against a 5-4 record. I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Yeah.
And you know what?
Your record is what
I'll also add, I'll say by 2 touchdowns.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty, yeah.
Wow, so we're getting cocky here, so it's unanimous.
I mean, it's not going to be a huge blowout, but
just
they are rivals, so it's going to be a good game. Divisional rivals.
All right. Yeah, that's true. Divisional rivals
are always crazy.
It'll be a little closer. Yeah.
So, all right, unanimous. We're all taking the Eagles.
Don't lose.
And now to finish off the NFL segment, we will throw it to James and Gerald for an undisputed top 10.
Absolutely. Not too much of a shake-up on the list this week as compared to a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
At number 10...
It's probably going to stay a little bit more steady going from here forward.
Yeah. We're getting there, and we're getting on in the season, so...
Yeah.
Starting at number 10, we've got the Seahawks dropping down from number 7.
Yeah, so Seahawks, they did take a win, but I don't like the fact that they lost Richard Sherman. I am kind of worried to see what that's going to do for them. So right now, I've still out of respect for them, keeping them in the top 10, but we'll see where they kind of fizzle out here. By the next couple games, we'll have a better idea of where they're at.
At number 9, we've got the Tennessee Titans making the list for the first time ever.
Yeah, so I kind of wasn't really sure which team out of the Tennessee Titans, and I also have Jacksonville that's kind of in a cluster between Tennessee, Seattle, and Jacksonville, the three teams. Didn't really know where to put them, so I ended up leaving Jacksonville out for now just because they have struggled a little bit. But Tennessee has just been impressive to me. I like what I've seen from them. They've had kind of slow progression over the last couple years, and I think Mariota deserves the respect to get at least ranked above his divisional rival in Jacksonville. So, yeah, that's why they're in there.
Dropping down to their lowest point yet this far, the Chiefs are at number 8.
Yeah, Chiefs have been pretty disappointing after their great start. They've struggled here, so that's why they've dropped. I really am worried about the squad. I don't know how good they really are. I think they're really starting to miss some of the guys on defense that they've got out on injuries, so it'll be interesting going forward to see where they're at.
At number 7, we've got the Panthers rising up 3 spots.
Yeah, and Panthers had a great game Monday Night Football this week. Like, they really, really showed out. I was really impressed with what I saw from them. Cam kind of started to look like the old Cam back from a couple years ago when he was MVP. And they are going to be getting back their tight end Greg Olsen soon. So it'll be interesting to see this team going forward. It seems like getting rid of Calvin Benjamin has kind of forced Cam to be more look elsewhere for production, so now he's kind of spreading the ball around more, so I like what I'm seeing from him so far.
At number 6, we've got the Vikings holding on to their spot from last week.
Yeah, and this is one of the shockers in the NFL because lost their 2 of their quarterbacks so far this year. Case Keenum's really stepped up. He's been playing really well, so I'm kind of buying in on this team right now. Their skill position guys are just really, really good, as Gerald would know from fantasy with Stephon Diggs. Yep. So right now, I think this team is going to win that division, but obviously we won't know going forward, but I think they have the best shot.
At number 5, the Saints have been climbing up the list, and they take the spot.
Yeah, Saints have been really impressive, and what seems really crazy to me about the Saints is, like, all of a sudden you would always say with the Saints that they didn't have a good defense and they couldn't run the ball, but it's like the tables have turned this year. They can actually run the ball now, and they have a good defense, and Drew Brees is not being asked to go out and have to throw for 10,000 yards in a season just to be competitive. So now that they've taken a little bit of pressure off him, the Saints have really taken that next step. I think they've won 7 in a row, if I'm not mistaken. So I like what I see from them, and they're probably only going to go up from here.
Yep, Saints on a 7-win streak. At number 5, we've got the Rams, and they're down 1 spot from last week.
Yeah, and I think the Rams, the only real reason why they're kind of down 1 spot is because the teams that have moved above them. So it wasn't really a shot at the Rams because I am still really high on the Rams, but there can only be so many guys in the top 2 or 3 spots, so that's why they're 4.
And at number 4, we've got the team that took their spot, the Steelers.
So yeah, I really like what I've basically seen from the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. I think they're starting to find an identity. I like the direction they've moved in, and with Big Ben he's on the back 9 of his career for sure. I don't want to say he's done as of yet. But I think they've understood that they really have to run the ball and play not great, but good defense. And that's basically what they've done throughout the season so far. Joe Hayden did go down, so it'll be interested to see if he comes back anytime soon. Cause that's going to be a big loss for them on the defense in the secondary if he is down. But I think Le'Veon Bell, super impressed, and basically they're a running team now.
At the number 2 spot, we have the New England Patriots holding on to their spot from last week.
Yeah, Patriots have been looking good. Patriots and Steelers are kind of another two of those teams where I'm kind of not sure where to put them yet. Will be interesting to see when they play each other coming down the stretch here and how that game goes. It's normally hasn't gone very well for Pittsburgh, but we'll see what happens this year. Brady's been looking great, even though he is 40. That team has stepped up from the first couple weeks where everyone thought they weren't going to be great at all. So impressed with what I'm seeing from New England, and then just a lot of consistency.
And of course, at our number one spot, the underdog's favorite, the Eagles.
Yeah, I think Eagles they're probably the best all-round team in the NFL right now, just based on even just statistics. And you can't really argue it. They have a great defense. Their offense has really been playing well. So I think all-round they have the best team in the league, and they have a really good chance to go far in the playoffs. So yeah, that's why obviously they're where they are.
And that's it for the underdog's undisputed top 10 NFL standings.
And that wraps up our NFL segment. So now we'll jump right into the NBA. And starting off, NBA, I wanted to discuss which team specifically in the NBA has impressed you the most so far, that may have not been one that was favored going into the season. So I'll start it off by saying one team that really impressed me this year is Detroit. And they are for real, because Reggie Jackson, now with the confidence of the coaching staff and management, saying that they're locked into him, he's not going to be traded. He's been playing phenomenally, as well as that combo with Ish Smith. A guy not a lot of people know about Ish Smith, but he's just one of those guys that you plug in to, an injury happens to your starting point guard and you can plug this guy in and seamlessly transition into the offense. Great distributor. He's got a good shot. And Stanley Johnson, a guy that hasn't really developed as fast as he should have in Detroit. I know that he's had a lot of D-League stints, or G-League, I should say, stints. So there is a confidence issue, but as of late, they've been playing really well. They've won 5 in a row. And of course, Tobias Harris and Andre Drummond, those guys have been a staple to that team for the past few years. So right now they're 10-3. They did lose to Golden State, so it they beat Golden State. So it's one of the big reasons that they caught my attention. And, it's just about that consistency and getting Reggie Jackson in the starting lineup to get in defensively, because offensively it seems like they don't have an issue. So Detroit's my team. How about, I'll throw it to you, James?
Yeah, just on your team, I've been impressed with what I've seen from Detroit too. I have Tobias Harris in fantasy.
And I love Steve Van Gundy.
Yeah, Stan Van Gundy. He's done a great job for sure. But yeah, I have Tobias Harris in fantasy, so I've seen the kind of numbers he's been putting up this year. And, it's a pleasant surprise. I'm impressed with what I'm seeing from that guy. I think he's kind of on that verge of being not a superstar, but on that verge of being kind of like a box office star. And, I think by next year he should definitely be there. Definitely his progression throughout the seasons has been great. So, I definitely think that's a good team to pick. But I think for me, and this is kind of for me to just kind of admit where I was kind of wrong, but the Celtics, I think I've been really surprised at how well the Celtics have played so far. Even without Kyrie going down for the last couple of games, they've been playing great. Obviously, we all know about Gordon Hayward, who went down, in the first game of the season. So the fact that they're 12-2, and they're on a, 11 or 10 game winning streak?
12 game
winning streak after going 0-2 to start the season. That's extremely impressive to me. And I think it kind of highlights the fact that you do see Kyrie going down as well, is the fact that Brad Stevens is a hell of a coach, and you can really scheme yourself to success in the NBA. And I think that's kind of what the Celtics are doing right now. They just have a better scheme, a better system than a lot of the teams they're playing. And, I think Brad's basically out-coaching a lot of these coaches that he's getting matched up against on any given night. And, I think that's where they're getting a good advantage.
It's weird to say that they have a lot of young, talented players, and that's
why I put it on the coaching.
Vets,
That's why I put it on the coaching. The coaching is what's causing this right now, because young guys, they're going to make mistakes. There are going to be issues. We've seen it on all the teams, like all over sports, not just in basketball. So the fact that he has such a young group and they're playing so well, one, they're extremely coachable themselves. They want to be coached. The team, they're really buying into what he's saying. They're listening to what he's saying, and what he's saying is working. So I think it's a combination of the two. So I think there's a lot of the credit should be given to Brad Stevens. Like, he has some talented guys on the roster, but there's no way his team should be as good as they are based on the talent they have, as far as I'm concerned. So he's there overachieving in my eyes, and I think that's impressive.
Okay, and tune in later to see where the Celtics stand in the top undisputed top 10. So yeah. Gerald, which team surprised you the most so far?
My team's a little more obvious. I'm going with the Rockets, but
I wouldn't say obvious. Now it looks like it, but
a lot of people didn't think they were going to be that good coming into the season because they traded away a lot of their depth. People like Patrick Beverley for Chris Paul, and he's been out.
He played basically a half.
Yeah. Even so, they're off to an amazing start, leading the league in offensive efficiency. James Harden is playing great, and my favorite player on their roster I've got in fantasy, Clint Capella, averaging a double-double with 2 blocks. I love it.
I'm actually worried for Houston when Chris Paul comes back.
That'll be interesting to see how they transition.
You're playing so well
right
now. You don't want to rock the boat, and now you're going to add this guy in who he's really only played 20 minutes with James Harden before.
But still, it was seamless. You guys forget that these are both great players that are willing to win. So he's not going to come in and start demanding the ball.
No,
he wants to transition himself into maybe the starting line, maybe start off the bench. I know it's crazy to say, but
I don't
like you said, how much success they're having right now. I'm sure he doesn't want to rock the boat.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay. So we got the picks in. Now moving on to the feature game of the week for the NBA. So we have highlighted the Celtics and the Warriors, both teams who are riding pretty big win streaks. Warriors, I believe, are on a 7-game, and the Celtics are on a 12-game win streak. So it'll be interesting to see, even though the Celtics do have the bigger win streak and the better record, where they stand based on Golden State, because they're the measuring stick, being previous champions, and just with their highly potent offense and how much damage they've been doing so far this season. My pick is kind of a little different than your guys. I'm the lone guy in Boston because I just think Kyrie and the young guys, they're going to get it done, and it's the case of best offense facing the best defense, and I'm going to lean towards the defense this time. Yeah. So what about you, James?
Sorry, I'm not giving the Celtics that victory like there.
I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. Because it is in Boston,
I believe. There's too much veteran
so.
experience on the Golden State Warriors, and I do respect Kerr as a coach. I think he is a good coach. So even though we talked about Brad Stevens out coaching a lot of guys, I think the Warriors are a team that are also coached very well. So, I don't think there'll be that mismatch at the coaching spot. So, I think it'll be a close game, but, I do think the Warriors evidently in the fourth quarter will pull away and get the win.
Mm-hmm. And, Gerald?
I'm going with the Warriors. I'm not as impressed with the Celtics as I probably should be, just because I don't think they've had a tough schedule so far. I think the toughest game they've had, or the toughest team they faced, might not have even been the toughest game, was against the Spurs at home without Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
So.
No, you're right. They haven't really been.
No,
tested
they haven't
that
played
much,
Houston. They haven't played the Warriors. It's just, nah.
Okay.
Warriors.
So we're gonna see. I'm putting my 3-1 record on the line right now. So we'll find out next week whether it's gonna be Celtics or the Warriors, and also Cowboys and the Eagles. So chance to see some movement, James. You can. Improve that 1-3 record.
Step up a little bit?
A little bit. All right. Now let's go on to our undisputed NBA top 10.
Starting off at number 10, we've got the Bucks just barely hanging on there.
Yeah, they've won 3 games, but more importantly, they've won all their games with their new addition of Bledsoe in that trade. So I think this makes an already dynamic offense add another lethal option as well as a veteran on the squad that kind of gives these young guys a voice and, not to say that they don't have a strong work ethic, but just it gives a different view and a different aspect to the game. So I see this team really climbing, significantly in the future and big games against Detroit and Washington.
At number 9, we've got the Timberwolves dropping 4 spots.
They're struggling, and the main reason for this drop is their late game collapse to Phoenix. So otherwise I would have seen them a lot higher because I am a big fan of them, but it just seems that with all these pieces that they added, Jeff Teague is playing really well. At the same part, Jimmy Butler is trying to figure out whether he's supposed to be the number 1 scorer with Wiggins or that playmaker that he's trying to be. So right now they're having a little bit of success as being a distributor. So we'll see, because there's just so many offensive weapons for that team. It's just tough for everyone to get their looks. And upcoming games with San Antonio, Detroit, and Charlotte. So we're going to see what this team is made of next week.
Making the list for the first time since last season, the Nuggets are at number 8.
Big surprise for me. They're 7-3 in their last 10. And Nikola Jokic, great player. I've been a fan of him even last year, watching him play. He won the Western Conference Player of the Week this past week, but the main problem for them and why they haven't, this is their first week, I believe, that they're in the top 10, is a play of their guards. Their 2 young point guards, Emmanuel Mudiay and Jamal Murray, the Canadian native. So, they're getting a lot of the minutes. It's just they're struggling to be aggressive and create an offense for these guys. And, it's the learning curves that teams like this have to go through, or with having such a young lineup, but having Jokic definitely helps. And beating teams like Toronto and throttling OKC and Orlando shows you that the potential is definitely there.
At number 7, the Wizards are back up on the list.
Yep. That's a team where, they lose a big game and then they lose a bit of footing and then they go on a win streak. So right now they're riding a 3-game win streak. But it's mainly because of their improvement on the defensive end of both units, the starting and the bench. And great play from Mike Scott and Kelly Oubre Jr., who have really stepped up as of late when some of the starters like Morris gets into foul trouble and Gortat. So look for Washington to, rise even next week and catch some of these teams like Toronto or Milwaukee off guard.
At number 6, the Spurs have redeemed themselves, rising from number 10 last week.
Yep, they've won 4 of their last 5. Not to say that it's, it's that big of a deal, but they're doing all this without Parker and Leonard. So I think that should speak volumes to not only the coaching, but how prepared the players are. And, their schedule isn't getting that much easier playing Minnesota and OKC. So it'd be great to see Leonard come back for one of those games, but, I wouldn't be surprised if the Spurs win both those games, if not at least one.
At number 5, the Magic still managing to keep that record high.
Yeah, one of the other surprising teams, losing to the Curryless Warriors last night, did not help their stock. But, they're another team that's battling with injuries. Their starting point guard, Alfred Payton, who is a big chunk of their offense, has been out most of the year. I think he's only played 1 or 2 games, and Augustine being out as well. So an important position right now. You've lost your 2 primary ball handlers, but they still managed to keep up, and, shout outs to Frank Vogel. He's doing a great job. They just tend to rely on 3-pointers when they start struggling. So that kind of either helps them in, huge wins against Cleveland or buries them in a game like, the Warriors, where they were tied at half and then they ended up losing handily.
I can't remember the last time I saw this team on the list. The Pistons are at number 4.
Well, better get used to it, because Detroit is the real deal. They're winners of their last 5 games, and they did beat Golden State Warriors to start this win streak. So they definitely have a big confidence boost. And I spoke earlier on the pod why I think this is my biggest surprise of the year. But, just play from the bench, Boban, Galloway, Ish Smith, it's one of the primary reasons this team has been surprising a lot of teams. And Milwaukee, Minnesota, and Cleveland are their upcoming games. So that's going to be a good measuring stick whether they stick into the top, or they stay into the top 5.
At number 3, we've got a team that starts with the C, but it's not the Cavaliers. Celtics.
Ooh, yeah. Throw a little wrench in there. No,
Where
Cleveland.
are the Cavs?
Yeah, they might be there or they might not. We don't know. Well, actually, we do, but find out soon. Now, Boston, they're only number 3 just because of the injuries to Horford, Hayward, and Kyrie. It's hard to gauge the team, but they keep winning. So big matchup against the Golden State Warriors will basically determine whether or not they jump to and be the legit leaders of the league. But other than that, taking a page of Milwaukee's book, they're young. They use their length. They have athleticism. They have great coaching and playmaking. So that, on top of having the best defense in the league by a wide margin, is showing why they're pulling off this 12-game win streak.
At number 2, the Houston Rockets keeping it strong.
Yeah, another team that's pretty hot right now, riding a 6-game win streak. They actually hold the best record in the West, holding the tiebreak over the Warriors. Offensive rating, they're the number 1, and defensive rebounding percentage, they're number 1. So not only are they shooting a lot of shots, they're getting a lot of the rebounds, they're crashing the boards, they're creating a lot of 50-50 balls. And, they just keep winning. So as long as they keep winning, they're going to stay in the top 3 for sure. Upcoming games with Toronto and Memphis, I don't think is really going to challenge them. So, look for them to kind of keep that win streak going.
At number 1, it's the Warriors, of course.
Yep. Golden State proved a little too much, as I mentioned last night, with Orlando, even without Curry. So that kind of impressed me the most, that they were still able to, run their offense with, their starting point guard being out. But a big reason why they've been so successful even this year and on this current 7-game win streak is the third quarter. I mentioned they went in tied at half to Orlando and ended up blowing the lead in the third quarter. They're actually plus 88 in the third quarter in the 7-game win streak. So look for that to continue against Boston, Philly, Brooklyn, and OKC this coming up this week. I see much the same unless Boston can prove something, that there's something special. But yeah, Golden State's on top. What's new?
Yep, and that's it for the Underdog's Undisputed Top 10 NBA rankings.
Yep, and now finishing off our show, we're just going to do a little fantasy roundup, keep people updated. With football, right now there is a tie between me and Gerald, but I've lost both our games in our head-to-head games, so I'm right now outside of the playoffs looking in. So I'm getting a little bit of nervous. 3 games left in the season. I'm only a game behind, so I can still do it, but right now I'm the one sweating about this challenge. So, I don't know.
Chest waxing, I believe, was the punishment.
Is that what's happening? Is that official?
First one?
Can we make that official right now?
Well, I think we made it official already.
Yeah, okay. We said that back
we can't back out now.
Alright, so that's sealed.
Yeah, and so James is feeling nice, being 10-0. Still hasn't had that loss.
I think I've probably mathematically already eliminated myself from having to do that challenge. So yeah,
no, not if we all make the playoffs.
Well, we still have to beat him in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you all make playoffs, then yeah, things may be.
But
different.
if I don't make the playoffs, you're pretty much easy sailing.
Yeah, exactly. I guess that's what I'm banking on or hoping for. One of you guys won't make playoffs, and then that just makes it clean cut.
Yeah, I think it might have to come down to the last game of the season when I face you. So.
It's gonna be tight.
I'm not just going for not doing the challenge. I'm going for the win. I got a good team, I think.
Yeah, I know. I got a good team.
Once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. That's
exactly.
what I've seen. So.
You never know with matchups.
NBA, James, I don't know how he does it. Somehow, ends up having the lowest points against, always coming through, getting the wins.
You're emotional about it.
A little bit, because you beat me.
He's got the most points against.
You beat me last week.
He has the most points against in basketball by like 20.
What do you mean? No, points for. Points against.
Oh, points for, yeah, is what I mean.
It's like points for, yeah, but points against, I'm like 100 over everyone.
Yeah, but I don't really care. If I've been scoring the same amount of points with you, it doesn't matter who I play. I still have the same amount of points as you have. Yeah. Minus 20 points.
It really all depends on the weeks that they match up with.
Oh, that's cute, yeah. Well, I'm 4-0, so I'll continue to be 4-0, and you can cry that you lost the game to me, but it was a close week, man. I had 2 guys that went off. I got the luck that week. We'll see what happens next matchup.
Yeah.
If anybody's still wondering, my top 2 picks, Kawhi Leonard and Chris Paul, are still out.
Coming back Thursday, though, so that's good news for you, bad news for me, considering I'm playing you this week.
I some bad news for fantasy for James.
I might hand you
You're
first
gonna have to deal with
some
adversity. Oh, God.
It's going to be a tough week.
Anyways, that's the show for everyone. Thank you all for listening. You can check us out on our YouTube page, Underdog Podcasts, and check out our Facebook page as well. And, let us know what you think. Thank you all again for listening.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening.